go ahead and jump in. Welcome to
Yeah,
the Morning
sure.
Track Power Hour. I
All
am
right.
Dr. Andrew Scaff. He is Dr. Michael Werman, Esquire. On today's show, we'll be talking at somewhat length about the Major League debut of Jac Caglianone for the Kansas City Royals. While they've been sort of scuffling along, promotion came a little earlier than we thought. But we'll be leading today's show with the NBA and NHL Finals about to get underway here in the next couple of days. We've got first, I think we're going to talk about the NBA and the Pacers ended up beating the Knicks at Game Six to stamp their ticket to the finals, and the Knicks ended up firing their coach after the series ended. Are you surprised that Thibodeau is now going to be no longer with the team after making the conference finals for the first time in 25 years, I think is what it was for the Knicks.
Yeah, I think that's crazy, but it makes sense because the Knicks haven't won anything for a long time. They're going to do something stupid. So, um, I think
Finally seem to be
Thibodeau.
making progress, and
I
then
think probably Thibodeau. I would guess there's some sort of personality clash with Thibodeau and the GM, and the GM decided he didn't. He thought he was probably the guy who got up to the finals, and Thibodeau wasn't. So he can fire Thibodeau and get maybe they're going to hire the Nuggets. Malone, who got fired right before the um, season, right before the playoffs. I don't know if that would
yeah,
be the best coach out there, probably. Um, but I don't know. I think it's dumb. They should have kept him. And because Thibodeau's been a pretty good coach. He's been fired a few times though, kind of in weird times. Uh,
yeah,
like he didn't get fired from Detroit when they were doing well too. At one point, he got fired from, I think, the Timberwolves when they were playing well. At one point, I don't know. He seems maybe he just wears out his welcome.
yeah. Or
Uh,
he doesn't handle something in the locker room. Maybe there's clashes that he can't control, and players complain about him. Or I don't know. I'm not sure what the situation is. There was a statement that the team put out afterwards, but it was just sort of boilerplate nonsense that you can't really read into. It
I
doesn't
guess
mean anything.
It wasn't Detroit. I think I meant Chicago instead of Detroit.
Mm, 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 mm.
Yeah. I don't know why. Yeah, I think I meant Chicago, but he was. Um, yeah, he was good there, and then he was fired, and then he was pretty good in Minnesota, and then he was uh fired as well. So I don't know what his yeah, his last uh full season in Chicago, he was 50 and 32, and they lost in the conference semifinals, and then he was fired. And then
Mm.
he uh had a couple of just not very much in Minnesota. But yeah, he's won he's had three really pretty good playoff appearances in a row for the Knicks. He conference semifinals or higher the last 3 years. So
It was sort of incremental like increase, right? Because I think they lost
yeah.
earlier, 2 seasons ago. They got
Hmm.
like one game further the next year, and then a
Yeah.
round further this year.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the kind of like it's not like it's stalling in one spot, and then you're like, okay, well, he can't go any further, because we've seen that sort of in the past with coaches that like, like looking back in Kansas City history, like Marty Schottenheimer was able to
Yeah.
get into the playoffs like for about an entire decade, and then you know spelled the end essentially because they couldn't advance any further. Or Andy Reid in Philadelphia.
Yeah, Reed
Uh,
was yeah, sometimes it's just you don't have the players to get over the top. I don't think anybody thought the Knicks were the most talented team in the Eastern
yeah,
Conference. They had some good players, but I don't yeah, I think Indianapolis seemed just to be a lot deeper than the Knicks did. The Knicks had, I think, they had like a 7 or 8 man rotation. Basically, the Pacers had like 10 guys that seemed to play a lot. So
yeah,
that's probably what spelled the end of it in the playoffs. But yeah, I'm surprised, but
yeah.
not surprised because the Knicks they haven't won a championship since 1973 2003, I believe. So it's been a while.
Wow.
Um, yeah. Um, I forgot they even made it in the year 2000 to the uh,
To the at least the
conference
conference finals, right?
finals. Yeah. Yeah. I guess that was probably the tail end of Patrick Ewing, uh,
Starks probably, and
Starks. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's
Uh,
been a long time. Yeah, but you would think that like Thibodeau's likely to find another job, probably, right? Like he'll end up somewhere within a year. There are enough teams that need coaches, right?
Probably. Yeah, I would guess he's probably gonna find another job pretty soon, sooner rather
Yeah,
than later. Maybe he'll go to Denver.
maybe they'll just end up swapping coaches
Yeah, I could see that.
in the off season. That'd be kind of amusing. Uh, but maybe enough about the team that lost the conference
Yeah.
championship into the finals themselves. Now we've got Indiana facing the uh, team that had probably the best season overall in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, they won 68 games fairly
Yeah,
quietly, I think, this year.
yeah,
That's
Uh,
only like two or three off the record of, I think the Bulls went was it
72 and 10
72
or
and 10 or
70.
something like that?
One of the
Or
Warriors teams I think was really close to that too. Did they tie it
yeah,
or
yeah, maybe.
did they end up
Um,
beating that record?
yeah,
I can't
they
remember
might have been
how.
73 and 9.
Yeah, I remember the race, but I couldn't remember how it finished. If they
Yeah, the Bulls were
made it to
95
that
96
or
Bulls were 72 and 10, and then 2015-16 Warriors were 73 and 9, but then they lost in the
yeah.
playoffs.
So that was with Durant then too, right? After
Mhm.
he went to the already like champion Warriors
Yeah. Yeah, so the only team with a better record than the Thunder to not win the championship was the Warriors, 73 and 9 when they lost. That was when they lost to LeBron, wasn't it? To the uh
in Cleveland.
Cleveland, I think.
That sounds
Uh,
right. Because it was pretty surprising.
the 68 and 14 Boston Celtics lost in the Eastern Conference Finals in the 1972-73 season. 67, a couple of 67 and 15 teams have lost. Uh, Mavericks and Spurs both lost before they got to the finals. But basically, if
Hmm.
you, it's unlike if you've seen like, so if you have if you win like whatever the President's Trophy is, basically, I think that's usually a pretty good um, indication of who's going to win the NBA championship, or at least lots of times it is. But if you
Right.
compare that to the NHL, the President's Trophy winning team almost never wins uh,
Yeah.
NHL playoffs.
Well, and I mean, because you're always if the team that wins the most game in the regular season make it to the finals, they're almost always facing the team that's either the hottest or the at least the second hottest team in the playoffs, right? Because they managed to make it all the way there
Yeah,
themselves, right? So,
yeah.
uh,
I
if
mean, yeah, so
momentum means anything in sports, then this is where they meet, right?
yeah, I guess it's only 45% of the 45% of the time team with the best record wins the championship. It's not as high as I thought it would be.
Yeah, that seems
Um,
awfully high, though. Really, I mean, because it's not
45%.
it's not a win one game scenario or get to the finals in one or two series. I mean, you have to win three series to get to the final.
Yeah,
So you would just on random odds, it would be much lower than 45% if it is, but it's not. I mean, it's not random odds. So
yeah.
because it'd only be like a one in what 16 chance
Yeah,
if
yeah.
it's
So the
if
odds
it's just
of
random
yeah, if it's just
odds.
random, yeah, the odds of making the finals, it says for the team with the best record is 58%. The odds of winning the finals, start of the playoffs, is 45%, and the odds of winning the finals once they're in the finals is 78%. So if they make the finals, it's a pretty good chance. Um,
Well, then the betting odds apparently are following history then pretty closely.
yeah, it didn't
As
happen. So it happened a lot. This article is interesting. I'm reading online. It's not just like some blog, but like in the 19 so let's say let's go going so in the 1940s, no team with the best record even made the finals, 0 out of 3. But in the 1950s, 9 out of 11 teams with the best record. I guess there's two tie. I guess there's a tie. So with the best record, so there's 11. Um, made the finals. 7 out of 11 won. 60s, 7 out of 10 made the finals. 7 out of 10 won the finals. In the 70s, 6 out of 11 make the finals. 3 out of 11 won. 80s, 8 out of 11 made the finals. 7 out of 11 won. 90s, 7 out of 12 made the finals. 5 out of 12 won the finals. But in the 2000s, only 3 out of 11 teams with the best record made the finals. Uh,
well,
but
so there, I mean, when you get to the 2000s, now you're talking about a 32 team field to start
yeah, and
with
you have a
half
16 team.
of them making it, and there's a full extra playoff round
Yeah,
at that by the 2000s. So like in the 50s and 60s, there were only like 8 teams in the
yeah,
league,
yeah. They probably
and I don't know if they actually played a playoff. I think they may have just gone right to the
they might have
final.
had finals, but maybe they had looks like they had probably conference finals
Yeah, it may have been like yeah, it was
or
probably
division
just the
finals or
two
whatever they would
rounds
be
of
called.
playoff.
Final
A
four.
semifinal and then a final, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's only like you have to win two series, and they
Hmm.
may not have even been 7 game series though at
Yeah.
that
In the
point. So
2000s, uh,
so I mean, so like you'd expect that there'd be a higher percentage of best record teams winning in the finals in like the pre-merger, the 19 pre
mhm.
1970, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not surprising, really, that there were a lot of those because there's when there weren't as much there wasn't much competition, so there were fewer teams and fewer playoff rounds to get to the finals, right?
Yeah.
And to win the finals. So, but yeah, once you get to the 2000s, you'd think it would like the odds would be like plummeting for best record teams making the finals, which they I guess they were down a bit, right?
Yeah.
But not maybe as far as you might expect even.
No. Yeah.
But then yeah, then like the last like decade or so, we've had like most of the years we've had like multiple teams on one side of the East or West. Usually it's recently it's been the West has been the dominant
Yeah.
conference. So,
Yeah, well,
you
since
know,
basically since the Lakers in the early 2000s started winning a lot, I think it's been the West because once Jordan, kind
yeah,
of almost once Jordan retired, it was the West. Yeah, because you had the Lakers win several, the Spurs won several, the Warriors have
Warriors.
won several,
Yeah.
and there have been a couple, random Mavericks win, random Nuggets win. Um,
Yeah.
Clippers, did they win one or they have?
No.
I thought
No, they've not.
they haven't won a championship, have they? Even though they were the best team for little bit, well, for a
Yeah.
short period, they were the best team. Um,
But like, the East won some finals, right? But they didn't really necessarily have a lot of competition to get to the finals though, right? So like
yeah,
Toronto
yeah.
won that one, right?
Since Jordan retired, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 out of, I guess the West is like 17 and 10 almost, or 18
Yeah.
and 10 probably, in the finals since Jordan retired.
Well, so
Uh,
what the Heat won twice. Uh Cleveland won that one. So LeBron, has responsible for three of those
the
wins, right?
Celtics have won a couple.
Celtics won a couple. Toronto
Bucks
got that
won.
one.
Raptors.
Mm.
Heat won 3.
Oh, was it three? Okay.
Yeah,
Or did they win one before LeBron was there?
they won one with
They
they won
won
in
two and two,
2006. They won in
right? With LeBron.
2006. And that was, I think maybe that was before
I think that was maybe just with
LeBron.
Wade and
But that was with Shaq and Wade on the same team.
yeah,
Shaq's sort of the end of his career. Yeah. That was Alonzo Mourning was on that team too.
yeah.
Dwayne Wade, Antoine Walker, Jason Williams, Udonis Haslem.
And he stayed in the league for a long time. Haslam.
Yeah, he
I think
is
he might still be in the league.
he's currently he played for the Heat from 2003 to 2023.
Did he retire then, or did he go somewhere else?
No, he's with the Heat as a uh executive now.
Okay,
I
so he
didn't
is
realize.
retired
So
from playing.
Haslam went undrafted in 2002. So he played for a French team, and then he got picked up by the Heat. He went to Florida as an undergrad, as a college player, I remember.
Yeah,
Then he played like 20 seasons for the Heat.
that's impressive.
He was the oldest person to play in the NBA Finals ever. He was 42 years, 363 days old. He beat the mark set by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but the Heat lost to the Nuggets in that season. But um, he didn't play very much for the Heat that year, but he only played in 7 games. Yeah, he never played more than, wow, he played forever, but he never played more than 16 games after the 2015-16 season.
Oh,
And he was always just sort of a bench player.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's still a pretty good career, especially for somebody that
Yeah.
went
He hadn't
undrafted.
played a playoff game for 7 years when he played in that 2023 playoffs. And he played 2 games.
Yeah,
So he wasn't part of the playoff rotation, but he did play forever. You're right.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was interesting. Yeah. Wayne Simeon from KU also was on that.
Gross.
That Heat team. He only played for the Heat for 3 years. Then he played. I didn't realize he only played that. He only played 3 years in the NBA. Then he played for a couple of years in Spain, and then that was it. I don't know what
Hmm.
happened. Oh, he doesn't retire. He retired from professional basketball in 2009 to pursue his Christian ministry called to Greatness. And since 2021, he has taken a position with the KU athletic department as the associate athletics director for engagement and outreach. Huh.
Hmm. What was it
Wayne's
called? Called to what?
called to greatness.
Yeah, the yeah.
Yeah. He was from Leavenworth,
Yeah.
or local Kansas City player. He was one of those like, yeah, guys that was, you know,
Seemed to be on the team for way more than
yeah, he played 4 seasons.
eligibility years.
Yeah. He played four solid seasons
Yeah.
for the for the Jayhawks. But so was
Yeah.
he who was your least of the KU players in your lifetime? Who was the least favorite of the KU players that you've seen?
Oh, I mean, there's a whole string of them, Mike. There's no way to narrow it down to a single player.
Uh,
You can go way
would you go
back to
back to
like,
would you say your favorites were the players from Iowa that went to KU, like
oh,
Rachel
those
Prince,
guys
or were they your
were
least
fun
favorite?
because because I was at Iowa State during that, but they got
Or
booed like
Kirk
every
Heinrich?
time they would touch the ball, even in
Yeah,
games that were played in Ames. That was pretty fun.
yeah. Kirk
Uh,
Heinrich,
yeah,
Rachel
he was
Prince,
a Kansas City guy too.
Heinrich. Yeah,
Yeah,
his dad was the Northtown coach for a while.
yes.
I don't know what.
I mean, I think they used to hang out at chapels too, because they had some like jerseys and stuff were there always on display at chapels if you
Oh, okay.
uh spent time there,
Yeah, Heinrich was from Sioux City, Iowa.
which is a scaff town actually.
Is that
My
where your
my
mom's
dad
from?
my
Your
dad's
dad's
from there.
your dad's from there,
Yeah. Yeah.
Sioux City, on the Nebraska border.
Yep.
We're across the river from Nebraska.
Right.
Yeah,
Which is the Nebraska Iowa border,
yeah.
the river. Yes.
I guess it's I guess you think of it as a river rather than a border. I was just trying to be more
I
exact.
mean
But
it
yeah,
is it's a natural border there.
yes.
Yes. As opposed to some places just have like a line drawn on some kind of
Um,
arbitrary location. Yes.
yes. Um,
But yeah.
yes.
Who was the other guy? I can't think of his name. He was the bigger guy. Was there at the same time as Heinrich?
LaFrance, you're thinking of.
Oh
No?
yeah.
Or Nick Collison, maybe you're thinking of. LaFrance was the other Iowa guy. I don't know
Yeah.
how much they overlapped.
Yeah, I think it must have been him, yeah.
Rafe LaFrance was from Lamoni, Iowa, I believe.
Lamoni.
Lamoni, Iowa. There we go.
Yeah. Yep.
That's or Hampton, Iowa, it says here, but I think he played for, I don't know why I want to say Lamoni, Iowa. He went to Monona, Iowa, some high school. Where's
Well,
Monona?
Lamoni is right across the border. Like you drive, that's one of the exits. Like
Somebody
you
was
go.
from Lamoni, Iowa. I
Yeah.
thought that's where LaFrance was from. It says he's from Hampton, Iowa,
Hampton. I don't know.
which is born there, but then he played in Monona. But I thought he was. I'm gonna look up Lamoni, Iowa, and
And
see if there's famous people from notable people. No,
nobody of note is from Lamoni, is what you're
other
saying.
than Caitlyn Jenner slash Bruce Jenner, as she would have been known at that
Wow.
point. Is but it says Mount Kisco, New York went to Graceland College, which is in Lamoni, Iowa.
Okay.
But I don't know if did Bruce Jenner or Caitlyn Jenner at that point forced earned a football scholarship, attended Graceland College in Lamoni, Iowa, forced to stop playing football after a knee injury. So okay, I didn't realize that's uh
Hmm.
huh, interesting. So yeah, that's the most famous. Jenner is probably certainly the most famous person from Lamoni, Iowa. Other than unless you think of there's a lot of Graceland College is the home is was a reorganized Latter-day Saints slash Community of Christ college. So there are a lot of RLDS church leaders from that area, including Joseph Smith III.
Okay.
He's no Joseph Smith the first.
Sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting little town, Lamoni. That's right. It's on is it on I-35?
Yeah, it's like the first exit you cross after you cross the border. I think that's the
Yeah.
first exit that you come to. It's like, yeah, just a couple miles north of the Iowa border from Missouri off I-35.
Yeah, that's why it's called Lamoni too. It's a king from the Book of Mormon.
Oh,
But that's why it's pronounced Lamoni instead of Lamoni.
I didn't. I just assumed it was a Native American
Yeah.
town or something that was there, something that was nearby. I didn't. I didn't know that.
Yeah. It was built there because it was located only 100 miles from Independence Temple Lot, which is the is the location of the Garden of Eden, according to uh, Mormon teachings.
Yeah.
But originally, it was founded by uh, it says Hungarian refugees who called it New Buda after the twin cities of Buda and Pest, which now are, of course, Budapest. But then when the reorganized Latter-day Saints came there, they decided to call it Lamoni.
Hmm. All right.
Yeah, interesting. And did you know that the original High V was located in Lamoni, Iowa?
I did not know that.
And it was started by two people named Charles Hyde and David Vredenberg. So they called it High V. I assumed it was for high value, was
No.
the reasoning for it. But it's named after two people.
Yeah. They have that as a sign, like as you come out of the store about Hyde. Yeah, Hyde and
Hyde and
I did not remember the other guy's name though. I just knew it started
Vredenberg.
with a
Yeah.
V.
Yeah. So Vredenberg, uh, well, I guess the first High V was not there, but the first,
Oh, it was like the headquarters or something for the company.
no,
Is
this
that
they started a grocery store chain called the Supply Store, which in turn became Hy-Vee. Illinois remained the company's headquarters until 1945, where it's now located in Chariton, Iowa. And now
hmm,
it's the former corp. No, it's the former headquarters. I don't know where Hy-Vee is located now. It's somewhere else in Iowa, probably.
probably yeah.
Chariton's new. Uh, and let's see, it's headquartered in West Des Moines, Iowa.
That
And of
makes
course, the
sense.
most famous employee of Hy-Vee, sports related.
Yeah. Well, at the time, future NFL, uh, what MVP and Hall of Famer, Super Bowl victor,
Yes,
Kurt Warner.
Kurt Warner. Yeah, I think he's still the most famous employee ever of Hy-Vee.
Probably. You can't. I mean, you're not going to end up being more famous than that. I don't think.
Do you
Right?
know which city Kurt Warner was at the Hy-Vee?
I
Which
don't
Iowa
remember.
city? Cedar Falls,
Oh,
Iowa.
Cedar Falls. Okay.
Not Cedar Rapids.
Which
Not
is
to confuse with
which
Cedar
is
Rapids.
odd too, because I mean, that's not there's not much there because it's University of Northern Iowa is there, but
Well, he played for Northern Iowa.
yeah. But I mean, other than that, okay. So that's why it would have
Yeah.
probably been there,
And then he went to the Iowa Barnstormers after that to play
which was in Des
in the
Moines.
Arena League, which is in Des Moines. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's you wouldn't really drive to Des Moines from Cedar Falls. You could, but you wouldn't like commute there. Or I guess if you're just like dropping in to play football for a day, maybe they don't practice a lot. So maybe he was able to live in Cedar Falls still.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Have you been to a Hy-Vee Fast and Fresh Express?
Sure.
You
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
in Iowa?
And well, in Kansas City,
Oh, they
there's
have them in Kansas City now? The
yeah,
Fast and
Hy-Vee's
Fresh.
all over.
I mean, they have smaller convenience stores that are Hy-Vee
Oh,
called Fast
I
and
think
Fresh
they
Expresses.
I thought
Apparently,
maybe that
they bought out some Quick Trips.
oh no, I didn't know about that. No, didn't know about that. I mean, they have some gas stations, but I thought that Fast and Fresh thing was probably just their what they how they do their like pickups and stuff like that. Deliveries.
They do have some stores called Fast and Fresh, which were meant to compete with Walmart Neighborhood Market.
Hmm. Well, it's just a grocery store anyway. So what's the difference?
I don't know. I'm just reading it. I'm just reading the Wikipedia article.
Yeah, we may have drifted off our NBA topic a bit here, Mike.
Well, we want to drift back to the as with the NBA Finals. So who's your prediction to win the NBA Finals? Do we want is it Oklahoma City or is it the Indiana Pacers?
Well, we I think we alluded to it that the betting favorites have followed your historical analysis there, and Oklahoma City is a minus 750 favorite for the series. Uh, I personally am still going to be rooting for Indiana because of Tyrese Halliburton on the Pacers side. He's a former Cyclone
Yes.
wearing my Iowa State shirt today. So yes, I'm going to be rooting for Indiana, but I'm probably expecting OKC to win.
I think Oklahoma City's
What
going to
do
win
you
as
think?
well. I think it's going to be like a 5 game series, something like that. It'll be short. Oklahoma City has with Gilgeous Alexander has the best roster. I think the best overall team.
They're
Uh,
deepest, yeah.
and they also, I think, have a lot of draft picks coming up too, so they might be around for a while. Uh,
When and did Gilgis Alexander end up winning the
he won the
MVP?
MVP this year,
Yeah,
yeah.
so which is usually a good thing to have when you're going into a finals to have the active MVP on your team, right?
Yes.
But Halliburton's been great for Indiana in the playoffs. They didn't have anywhere close to the same regular season. I think they only won 50
Hmm.
games, not even close to the 68. But Indiana's been great in the playoffs. I think they've only lost 4 games in the playoffs in the 3 rounds. So
Yeah, they've
nobody really
lost.
threatened them.
They won the first series 4-0, 4-3, 4-1. So they had trouble with the Nuggets. They won that
That's
game.
that's OKC,
That was
right?
yeah, that was 3 games. So they swept, then they won in seven, then they won in five.
But Indiana, I think, only went to game 6. I think was the furthest they
Yeah,
were tested.
Indiana. So each of those teams have lost four
Exactly,
games. They're 12 and
four
4.
losses.
Yeah, each of them are 12 and 4.
Yeah, but
Going
but that means that Oklahoma City was maybe tested a little more in that they actually had to go to a game 7.
They need to go to a game seven against the
Yeah.
Nuggets. Um,
So yeah, so the betting line right now is Oklahoma City minus 750, and the total number of games is on the negative betting side. So they're expecting the under at 5.5
okay,
games.
that's
So
what I was
that
thinking. I was thinking
that
five.
follows what you were
Yeah,
saying. So if you're betting this series, would you take Oklahoma City in the under 5.5 on
yeah.
the short odds side?
Well, I think if you bet a parlay Oklahoma City and the under, you might get a little better odds.
Yeah,
Uh, so maybe that's the bet to go if you want to make some money.
yeah,
Uh, it's probably close to even or slightly plus odds if it's Oklahoma City and uh, the under, or maybe not. I don't know. It's probably close to even at least.
yeah. They don't quite list the odds that way right now. For some reason, they're not making it super easy the way that they're writing out some of these odds anyway. But let's see. Yeah, most like the parlay builder stuff. It's all about like player props and series specials. No, I don't see like a team and how many games. Doesn't seem like a straight up listing. Like you might have to build your own parlay here for some reason.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's what I would
So
do because I think that's going to be unless you do want to, unless you think maybe you think Indiana can sneak away, and then maybe you would just bet Indiana because you get such a big payout. It's probably plus 500, something like that for
five, yeah, 530 for
plus 530.
Indiana. Yeah. So yes, yeah. So you get a much better payoff if you take the underdog, but you're also
Less likely to win.
less likely to win, but also like you're probably gonna you would need it to go deeper into the series because I mean Oklahoma City's gonna win at least a couple games, right? So like you're not going
You
to
would
go
think,
5.
unless
It
there's this catastrophic injury or something.
right, which is possible. Uh, and Caglianone just grounded out again for
Over
the
five is
defenders.
debut.
His
But the
his
Royals
day
are winning
is
10-7. We'll talk about the Royals in a second. You want to talk
yeah,
first about the NHL playoffs
yeah,
where we have
absolutely.
the Edmonton Oilers facing off literally and figuratively against the Florida Panthers.
Yes,
Panthers have been really good the last few years, but the Oilers are the favorites, maybe because they have four home games. Uh, so are you rooting for a Canadian victory, or do you want to see another warm weather, undeserving city win an NHL championship again, just to uh, stick it to the cold weather fans?
So personally, I don't care as much about the cold weather, warm weather cities, but I do want to see a Canadian team break this awful streak that has, the country with the national pastime of hockey has not had an NHL championship in too long, really. So
Since
I'll
93
I'll be
Canadians,
rooting for what was it? What is it?
1992, 93 Canadians.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's way too long. 33 years then?
Yeah.
32 years. That's way too long. So yeah, personally, I'll be rooting for the Oilers, and I think I expect them to win too, but I'm not
The
sure.
Panthers, of course, won the Stanley Cup last year,
Yes,
so they're looking for a repeat.
yes,
And they are, this is actually the th third straight finals appearance for Florida as well. So they've negotiated the playoffs very well these last 3 years.
yeah,
But they also play in Miami, which is probably the least hockey friendly city uh,
naturally,
naturally in the
yeah,
NHL, even more so than Tampa or
right. Because it's not like the Gulf freezes over and
maybe
you
you
can
could say
skate on
Phoenix.
it.
Maybe Phoenix could rival, but there's no team in
You
Phoenix
know,
anymore.
well, so Las Vegas then.
Vegas, but it gets cold. I think it's hotter in Vegas than it does in Miami, but also gets colder in Vegas than it does in Miami. So if
Sure,
you can get at least feeling, down, Miami probably doesn't get below 60 degrees very often. Um,
right.
whereas Vegas it'll get in the 30s at least in the wintertime, at
Yeah,
night especially. So yeah, I would yeah, I don't want Florida to win, that's for sure.
yeah.
And
So you're
and
rooting
they actually
against
beat the
Florida
Oilers. They
because of
actually
their
beat
warm weather location, though,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and they actually beat the Oilers last year in the finals, 4 games to 3. So Edmonton is looking to get exact revenge. And speaking of the Las Vegas, the Golden Knights were the team that beat Florida 2 years ago in the
That's right.
I have no memory of either of those. I remember some memory of talking about it on Warren Truck Power Hour that they were all the warm weather teams were winning that year, and
Yeah.
I was not too happy about it. But you were rooting for the warm weather chaos, I believe.
It's
Um,
funnier.
yeah.
And it seems to annoy you. So that makes it enjoyable for me in that regard.
Yes.
Mm. So
Yes.
the betting odds in this series are a lot narrower, Mike. Makes it a little more challenging to make your picks here, I think. But Edmonton's favored just minus 128. Panthers are plus 106 for the series. And the over under line, it looks like they're expected to be a longer than a 5.5 game series. Over 5.5 is minus 205, under plus 164. How are you betting, or how would you consider betting the NHL finals?
Well, just out of
Or would you just avoid it? Would you just not bet on the final?
I would. Well, I don't know. I would if I were I would bet basically with my heart and bet for um bet the Oilers to win because I would want them to win. But I do think it's probably going to be at least a 6 game series. So I would
Yeah,
go over, and Oilers would be my pick. Um but I could see it go either way. I think the Oilers have the best top tier talent with the McDavid and Draisaitl. But I think maybe the Panthers are the more experienced, battle tested team.
sure. Three finals
So
appearances in a row. That's pretty
yeah,
solid. But I mean, against two finals appearances in a
yeah,
row for
yeah,
it's not like they're facing an unknown,
yes,
untested. deep playoff team, right? It's
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And Florida has one. So, and if you want to go by records, Edmonton won their first series 4-2, second series 4-1, third series 4-1. So they are 12 and 4. Panthers won 4-1, 4-3, 4-1. So they are 12 and 5. So the Oilers are one game up, or I guess a half game up, 12. But they've
yeah.
lost one fewer game. So maybe they're a little bit
So they're
fresher. I don't
yeah,
know, but also
more
maybe
rested,
less
perhaps.
more rested, less battle tested. However,
Yeah,
but
possibly.
they made their way. Uh, the Oilers have only beaten American teams in this. They beat the Kings, the Golden Knights, and the Stars. Uh, and the Panthers have either beaten a Canadian team or a warm weather team. Both of their times, they beat the Lightning, barely beat the Maple Leafs, and they beat the Hurricanes. Uh, so they were hoping that they can beat the Canadian team again, but they haven't played. The Canadian team played them the toughest so far. So if that has any indication of actual how the matches will shake out, but I don't think it really will. But
So
um,
you're actually looking for the Canadian team of destiny, beating all of the American teams on their way to this
yes,
championship, to the
and they've also
championship.
beaten all warm weather teams. Have
Oh,
the
so you're
Oilers?
really behind
They beat
Edmonton, not
they beat the
just
Kings.
for being Canadian, but
They beat the Golden Knights and the Stars. So they beat uh, Los
so the
Angeles, Las
warmest
Vegas, and
weather.
Dallas. Now they're going to beat Miami. I think and they're all kind of flashy uh, uh, American cities as well. None of them exhibit the requisite grit that a real hockey town should
That
have.
represents, yeah,
Yeah.
the sport as a town. Then
Yeah,
yes,
they're not they're glitzy rather than gritty, I would say. Certainly there is a large shady underbelly of all those cities, but the image that they have is one of glitz rather than grit. They didn't
absolutely.
they didn't run through, Detroit and Chicago and New York
Like
or
Philly or
Philly,
Pittsburgh
yeah,
or yeah.
yeah. Any of the Rust Belt. Well,
Yeah.
they couldn't really play against any Rust Belt cities,
No,
except
they're all
I guess the
East
Western
Coast
Conference.
teams.
Chicago and Detroit are traditionally Western Conference, so they've got a couple of those. But um, yeah, it's yeah. The West is either Canadian or um, warm weather mostly.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true.
Other than I guess Denver is neither, but
It's that's sort of a mix because it is cold weather in the winter, but it's pretty warm in the
summer.
summer. So right, yeah. So yeah.
And
Uh,
yeah,
one thing I was going to ask you though is about the playoff format itself. Both the NBA and NHL use the 2-2-1-1-1 home away series. Do you like that better than the 2-3-2 for teams like for these two sports? Would that affect how you make your picks in the
um,
NBA or NHL?
it would make a difference for me in maybe the number of games, just because a 2-3-2, I would say, is it favors the away team if they can if they can scoop out a victory
In the
uh,
first
in the
in the
first
first two
two.
games. Yeah, because then you can
Uh,
immediately win it at home, right?
Yeah, but
So
then you can win at home. But I think it favors the home team in the long run
right.
if they can hold serve. I so there's advantages and disadvantages to both of them. I
Yeah.
think the reason it's 2-3-2 so often is because of, at least in the finals, is because of travel distances sometimes. So between
Hmm.
Edmonton and Miami, that's a very long. I don't, it probably is perhaps the longest trip in the NHL.
it's got to be close. If it isn't, it's be surprising if it's not.
Yeah, because Edmonton's north of Calgary, so
Yeah.
I think that's got to be the longest
And Miami's the furthest
southeast.
southeast you can get.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
So the most distant teams. So the 2-2-1-1-1 is kind of inconvenient for that kind of series.
yeah. And it's not like baseball where you're going to play, 2 or 3 days in a row.
Yeah,
Like they'll usually have a day off, even sometimes between home
yeah,
games. So maybe an extra day off between, trip days, anyways, where they're actually like traveling, especially when they're going that distance.
yeah. The
But going back
Pacers,
and forth isn't as big of a deal
yeah, the
when there's a
Pacers
day
Thunder
off.
is not as far to travel.
Right.
Two
Much
mid
closer.
mid American teams, uh, Heartland teams
Yeah.
going
So
against each
between the
other.
two sports, we see like a pretty good representation of the country
Yeah,
in the teams that are playing
yeah. In some ways, Kansas
geographically.
City is kind of midway between both of the NHL and NBA teams. It's equal. I think to Kansas City's probably about equidistant between Indianapolis and Oklahoma City, and maybe
Yes.
equidistant between Edmonton and Miami uh, as well.
Yeah. So should the Kansas City should be a stopover town,
Well, they should just play all the games, right, in Kansas City as a
or
neutral
just
site.
meet in the middle, play all the finals in Kansas City. That's fair.
Yes. So Kansas City to Edmonton is 1,566 miles.
Jeez.
Kansas City to Miami, 1,461. So only 100 miles difference the
Wow.
drive.
Yeah.
So I guess
And
probably
that's
St.
that's that's
St.
driving
Joseph might be
distance,
the more equidistant than a little bit north of Kansas City.
probably.
And let's see,
So
Kansas
you're
City.
advocating for St. Joseph being the host city
Yeah.
for all the major sports leagues to have their finals.
Yes. No,
Yeah.
not really. So Kansas City to Indianapolis is 482. Kansas City to Oklahoma City is 350. Uh, so not quite as central, but still pretty central between
Yeah,
the two.
it would still work as a natural meeting point
Yes,
for people from those cities to go. Right.
yes, yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Kansas City, should we switch over to the Royals now?
Sure.
The Royals, it turns out, have just won their first game in the series. They're currently playing against the St. Louis Cardinals. Well, they scored actually 10 runs, which is not quite season high, but a recent high for sure for the Royals.
Of the
And they
last
scored those
month.
10
Yeah.
runs in the debut game of Jac Caglianone, who actually didn't have any hits. He was the only Royal without any hits. He hit the ball hard several times. But do you think calling up Caglianone was the right decision, Dr. Scaff, this early, or should they have waited a couple more weeks just to see how he settled in to AAA a little bit longer?
I think oddly enough, they should have called him up one game earlier to make it so his debut would have been at home in Kansas City. They would have sold a lot more tickets to a Sunday game, which I actually went to on Sunday. I would have much preferred to have found out later that the ticket that I had was going to be the debut game for
Ooh, that would have
Caglianone,
been
right?
nice to go
So
to.
that's where I'm a little upset. But it would have if they would have done it they would have had a right-handed pitcher that they were facing at home, so the home crowd would show up, you know, in bigger numbers too, because they would know the debut was going to be that day. They announced it, at least a day earlier. Uh, yeah, it was really unfortunate. Division rival game against Detroit. I think that's the only gripe that I have about this. They called him up early, which is what I think I had said last week in our
Yeah, I
in
was
our
thinking
episode.
July 1st was the over/under, and it ended
That's
up
where
being
kind of
almost
we said it last time. Yeah, it was
almost
July
June
1st, and
almost June 1st was the over/under.
right. And that was only a couple days into June before it was on the first, I think, that they announced that they were.
calling him up, and the third
calling
was
him up, and then
his
now his
debut
debut is
today.
tonight for us while we're recording this
Two
on the
days ago
third.
for you listeners and viewers. If
Yes,
you catch us on the Thursday, like so many of you do, here at
yes.
the Power Hour, we will um, try not to. We'll see how Caglianone does. He didn't have any hits. He's over five tonight. He hit the ball hard several times. I don't think he struck out any of the times either. He made contact every time, so that's a good sign.
I think it was a deep fly line out to right center, and then four ground outs. I think
Yeah, he had some
two to the left,
almost
two to the right.
yeah, some near singles and a near extra base hit, but it's harder to come. Those hits are probably harder to come by in the majors because the fielders are better. They're not only better hitting, but they're probably also a little better fielding in the majors
Yeah,
or in AAA. But
yeah.
hopefully
We saw what Arenado took away, maybe a hit or two,
he,
possibly on the left side. Who's a
yeah.
a very good defensive player for a long time. And yeah, the center fielder made a great catch against him in his first at bat. But uh, we did see one thing during the game that I think you and I were a little both surprised by, though, is St. Louis did change pitchers to face him. Pretty surprised that the opponents have taken some seriousness in his early plate appearances, even and are planning for him rather than just facing him with whoever
Uh,
was on the mound.
it's hard to
What
say
do you
because
think
I
of the
think
debut?
probably it was something was just done because he wanted a lefty-lefty matchup versus instead of a righty-righty matchup. So maybe just simply because he's a left-handed batter, that's what they want to put a lefty in. But it
Yeah,
also good sign. It is a good sign to say, well, we don't have to just keep the righty in because he's an
yeah.
easy lefty out either. So yeah, so
There's some respect there, right? It's not
yes,
yeah, it wasn't disrespectful or right, yeah.
yeah.
Maybe it doesn't mean anything, but I think it's interesting that they did change pitchers for him.
Yes. And it does seem like from what I was listening to some of the game and they said Hudler and it wasn't Lefevre, it was the new guy who was announcing
Yeah,
uh,
it's one of the radio guys. I think that's on a lot of the time on the
yeah.
radio, but as in the TV booth sometimes also.
Yeah. He said that the Royals had one of their best batting practice sessions today because they were energized because of Caglione. Caglione. I guess he's Caglione, I think.
Yeah.
Um
I mean, it seems like they shuffled the lineup a bit today too, and seems like they moved Sal down to five, which is probably more fitting from how he's been hitting recently.
yes.
So, I mean, at least they're making some of these changes that maybe should have been made a long time ago, but they're
Yeah.
uh
And
I think
yeah,
one of the
and
things
Wynn
that
seems
we
to
talked about just before the show started anyway was that they've gone to more of the all young guys lineup too. Like the outfield is as they put it out today anyway was Nick Lofton, Kyle Isbell, and Drew Waters and right. So it's all three, relatively young players. They're not trying to force veterans into the lineup and taking up some of these positions, blocking some of these younger players from getting playing time. So, maybe these something that maybe should have been done a long time ago, but they're finally doing it now. Is that do you find that a little exciting too now they've shifted to Caglione also?
Yeah, I do. I think it's good that they're playing. Like, it seems like one of the things the Royals have done, and not just the last few years, but the last many years, is that the Royals do not like to rely on their young players going into a season. They like to bring in a lot of kind of mediocre veterans to fill in what they see as holes in the lineup, rather than letting the young players grow in to fill those holes. And usually, the first half of the season, those not so good players take up a lot of space in the lineup and then eventually, when the younger players start to fill in, the Royals do a little bit better. But then the cycle repeats itself every year, where the Royals are continually looking for veteran guys that are not, veteran. They're not like, we're not talking about, high end veteran players that are gonna, be
Right.
competing for all-star spots. It's kind of mediocre veterans or veterans who were sort of washed up or had a couple good season, 2 or 3 years before, and they're trying to rehabilitate their career.
Right. Or
So
value type plays of somebody coming off an injury. Like you
Yeah,
don't know how they're going to perform, if they can regain their previous,
yeah.
heights of their abilities. You just don't know.
You don't know. Yeah. It seems promising today. The Royals had 13 hits today. Witt is maybe turning things around. He has 2 home runs in the last couple of games.
Yep.
Uh, he's got 7 home runs now. He had been stuck on like 4 home runs for a lot of the season. And then his batting average just dipped below 300, but now it's maybe settling and maybe going to creep up again up
Ticking
to
ticking back up. It's
towards
around
300.
280 something now. Yeah.
287 is what it is now after today's game.
Yeah.
India has been playing better as of late. He had 3 hits tonight.
And
Garcia has
some of those
been,
hits were like really solid shots too. They
yeah,
weren't like, the seeing eye single type. They were
hmm
good line drives that found spots.
yeah. Garcia has been solid. He batted third tonight, so that's maybe where he should be. Uh, the way he's been playing this year, he's
He
actually,
should have been leading off for a lot of the season.
yeah.
They, when I don't want to do that.
Well, yeah. I think now that India is playing better, maybe a leadoff spot for him is not too bad. But yeah, I think Garcia has the highest on base percentage of any player on the Royals this season. So yeah,
Which
you would
means,
in the leadoff would be a good thing to do. But
yes.
I can see why you want maybe Garcia. Traditionally, one of your best hitters is third. Although I think sabermetrically, second is where you want your best hitter to be. That's why Witt is there. Um, and then
Yeah, well,
I think
you're,
1, 2, and 4 are the seen as the top 3 spots,
yeah.
and then 3 is maybe the fourth best hitter.
Yeah, I think the sabermetric stat line is that you should just order your lineup by on base percentage, and highest at the top, lowest at the bottom, 1 through 9. That's the statistical approach. But yeah, the old traditional baseball logic is, you want your guys that can drive in runs, get more doubles than singles in the 2, 3, 4 spots than the one.
Yeah. Traditionally, it was the
And the one
speedy
is
guy at
usually your
top
base
at
stealer though
1.
too. Yeah.
It was the high average, low power guy at 2.
Yes.
Best all around hitter 3. Best power hitter 4. Second best power hitter 5. And then,
Yeah.
6 through 9, best to worst from there.
Yeah.
Um,
And maybe at 9 you put like your next fastest
yeah, you
guy.
put it as an additional sort of leadoff
So it becomes like
player.
the de
Yeah.
facto leadoff. If he may just happen to lead off an inning at some point, and then you've got two
Yeah.
speed guys back to back, that's a good chance to get it run too. So
Yeah.
yeah, but at the very least, you got a guy that can lay down a bunt and maybe beat something out,
hmm
even on a sacrifice attempt or something that you don't know. You might be able to steal an extra base here or there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it seems like they're maybe falling into something, like hopefully sticking with these younger guys a little more. Maybe they don't have to shift player positions around as much if they go with this strategy. Uh, I know we've talked about this over the last 2 years, that maybe they should have done this to start the last season with the all young guys team from the beginning, but maybe we're here now, finally.
Yeah, let's hope so. The Royals they're currently in fourth place in the division, 7.5 games out of first behind the Tigers. Um, but hopefully that can change. They're only 1 game out of second place though, so they're competing with the Guardians and the Twins are each 32 and 27. The Royals are 32 and 29, so they have
Yeah.
2 more games um, than their competitors in that arena. But yeah, the Royals. We'll see how Caglianone settles in. Hopefully, he starts getting some hits. Doesn't feel the pressure too much, and can become a part of the lineup, especially one that can start producing some runs. Because the Royals are, I think, second to last in runs scored in the majors, and one of the best pitching teams in the majors. So they're kind of uh, even when it comes to runs versus runs scored versus runs allowed. But and also, hopefully, you want Ragans to come back and Lugo to get regain his mojo. He just when he gets fully healthy again. and maybe they
Yeah.
have Cameron. They have Lorenzen has not been playing so well lately, but maybe if you have Cameron, Bubic, Waka, Lugo, and Reagans, that's five good starters. Lynch as a sixth guy.
Yeah.
Lorenzen maybe as another kind of spot starter if he can find his groove as a long reliever or something like that. If he gets, um, the Royals do have a really good pitching staff, and
Bubic has been phenomenal. He's been maybe the
yeah,
best pitcher in the American League this season so far. So that, I mean, that's what's really amazing is you didn't expect to see that.
yes,
So
Bubic is the earned run average leader of in the majors at
yeah,
1.43. So, uh,
that's impressive. I don't think we would have predicted that uh, by any stretch. We said like, which
he's
is who's going to be the best pitcher of this rotation. He would be at maybe our third pick
yeah,
or
Bubic has
yeah.
been worth 3.5 WAR already this year, which is zero point 0.6 WAR above the next highest player. So he's head and shoulders right now as the best pitcher in the majors. Uh,
What's his career WAR
I'd have
at this point in his young career? It's like it may not be much above that.
yeah, let's see I'm looking. So ESPN has him at 3.5 WAR. Baseball Reference has him at 3.56 career WAR.
Okay.
So he's
So he's
got
roughly a neutral player coming into the season.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's leading the league in ERA, ERA plus, and WAR. Uh, actually, ahead of Hunter Brown, Paul Skeens, Tarek Skubal, Garrett Crochet, Nathan Eovaldi. Those are the next highest. Max Fried, some big names below him. Um,
But every time you hear the name Garrett Crochet, you think of Stephen Toast, though, don't you? Like it
yes.
has to be a Toast of London name. It can't
However,
be a real person's name.
in terms of WAR, the pace of WAR being accumulated, Noah Cameron is ahead of Chris Bubic. Bubic has 3.5 WAR in 12 starts. Cameron has 1.4 WAR in four starts.
Four
So,
starts.
so that
Yeah.
would be he would have 4.2 WAR in three starts and 12 starts in three
Yes.
times as many. If you multiply it by three, in 12 starts he would have 4.2 WAR. He currently has a 1.05 ERA. Noah Cameron.
Yes. In that he's allowed, I think, exactly one run in three of his starts and none in the fourth. So, which
Yeah.
was his first. But not bad. Not a bad start to a career, would you say?
No, it's like the best. I saw it's like the best start since like 1891 of any pitcher, basically. At least according to he was like the first pitcher to have like let one or fewer runs allowed in his first four starts, pitching at least 6 2/3 innings or something like that. It was one of those uh,
Yeah.
Ryan Lefebvre start stats. But
So say here now play this through maybe. Reagan's is near ready to come back. What do you do with Cameron then if Lugo's also back? You've got to find a spot in the rotation for him, don't you?
I think Lorenzen is the one who gets dropped to a relief spot. I don't.
Or maybe he goes on an
Injured
injury
injured
list
designation if he's if
stint.
he
I
if
mean,
he is
his
injured.
last two starts, I think he's given up like 13,
Yeah,
12 or
if he
13
has some
earned
sort of
runs.
issue,
So
yeah, maybe put him on the injured list. But you have to keep Cameron up, I think, especially just because
you
he's done
have
so
to,
well.
right? I mean, how do you send him down
Yeah,
after having what was that? The best start since 1890s?
91 or something. Yeah.
Jeez, no. You can't send that back down. That's stupid as a franchise to even consider that, isn't it?
Yes. Okay, so Cameron is just the second pitcher since 1893 with 6 1/3 plus innings and one run or fewer allowed in his first four appearances.
Does it say who the other one was?
Yeah, it was somebody who was not that great.
Yeah.
Um,
See, there can't be much precedent for that. So like if that player was somebody phenomenal, then
yeah, I'm trying to
uh
find it.
then you have to say like, well, this is the career path for Cameron, right? To whatever that
Yeah.
is.
Oh, Cody Anderson for Cleveland, 2015 was the other
Oh,
one.
recent then.
Yeah.
But I suppose like in the older days, the starting pitchers were expected to go deeper
More
into
than six and
games, and
two
it'd be
thirds, and they usually would allow more runs if they stuck around that long. So,
right. If they're pitching
but
into the seventh and eighth,
well, they pitched a lot more shutouts back then too, So like,
right.
you
But then
know,
but it's expected, right? So like if they
yeah,
pitch seven, you're gonna expect them to go eight, right?
yeah,
So, but then your odds of giving up runs later are maybe a little higher because you're a little tired. I mean, it's definitely higher, right? I mean, we the
mhm,
stats on the third and plus times through the lineup, usually goes the favor the yeah who was favored tends to go towards the batter the more times they face the same pitcher in the same outing.
mhm.
Unless you have like a crazy array of pitches like Lugo, who has
Yeah.
like somewhere between 9 and 12 pitches depending on how you
Well, Cameron has a lot
categorize
of pitches
pitch
too.
types.
Cameron, I think, has a lot of
Yeah,
pitches, right?
I think so. But I've only sort of casually watched his starts. I haven't been able
Yeah,
to.
Cameron has, let's see, his pitches that I see. He's got a four seam fastball, a cutter, a changeup, a curveball, and a slider. So he pitches five.
As a rookie, that's typically a little more diverse than you expect.
Yeah, usually, well, most pitchers, you want at least three pitches from a starter.
Yeah. But
Relievers
then
can get
you
by with
usually come up
two.
with three, and then maybe you add a fourth,
Hmm.
relatively early once you get to the majors, and then,
Or sometimes you have to add that third to try to become a starter because
yeah,
lots of times younger pitchers only have two. They'll have a usually they have a fastball and some sort of slider or curve, and then
something off
you
speed,
develop
right?
then you develop a changeup maybe uh,
Yeah.
later, or a different type of fastball, which they haven't. I don't think they've always differentiated the four seam versus the two seam
Yeah.
fastball. But yeah, so four seamer cutter, which is kind of changeup, curveball, slider. Usually don't have a slider and a curve. It's one of the you have one or the other, so that's unusual.
Mm.
Um,
But a lot of that is about like your arm angle though too, as to which one
yeah.
you're probably going to throw. Like if you throw from a really high
Hmm.
release point, it tends to be the curve just to get it more downward motion
Yeah.
on the ball. Where if you're coming more from the side, then it's you probably want more of a slider type pitch because it's going to sweep across your same-handed
Yeah. According to the
hitter
pitch
away
tracking
from
that
you.
I'm watching, looking at cut in the four starts, uh, so he's thrown 66 four-seamers and to right-handed batters, 27 to left-handed batters. 63 right-handed batters get the cutter, only seven to left-handed batters. But the changeup, he's thrown 66 times to right-handers, only once to a left-handed batter. So he must think that the changeup is not very strong against lefties. Um, He's thrown the slider, though, 24 times against left-handed batters, only 19 times against righties. So it seems like he switches maybe the slider more. I don't know. I'm just looking at baseball savant .mlb.com.
Well, he is left-handed though, isn't he?
He's left-handed, yeah. So I guess I
Yeah.
don't know why he doesn't throw his changeup to
Well,
lefties.
because I think he probably wants if he's throwing a slider to the lefties, then he wants the ball to end further away from the hitter, so he's not going to be able to make as much contact with it or get him to swing and miss, right?
Well, it looks like the slider goes inward mostly on lefties.
Or he's keeping it on the inside. I mean, he's just trying to
Yeah.
get
The
the inside
changeup is the one
corner.
that goes farthest. Yeah, I don't know exactly what
Usually the
he's.
changeup like dip,
Mhm.
downward a little bit
Yeah,
at the
it's low
end.
in the strike zone, but it's
So maybe he has a tendency to leave the changeup up, and he doesn't want to do that to the lefties. So the same-handed
maybe.
hitter. So yeah, he wants everything to finish either further away or catch the inside corner on something that
Yeah.
they may try to get
Also,
out of the
yeah,
way of.
changeups also they seem to go down more, and usually
Yeah.
left-handed hitters are better low ball hitters for some reason than
Hmm.
right-handers. I don't know why.
Well,
But
low and inside are probably easier to
yeah.
hit than outside though too, right?
Mhm.
So to a same-handed
Yeah.
hitter. Yeah.
Well,
Anyway,
anyway, I think we've exhausted our discussion today on the Royals, but we'll continue next week and discuss the Royals. We didn't mention the Chiefs at all today because there's really nothing going on other than perhaps stadium rumblings in the Missouri legislature and around town. We'll see what happens with that. But
yeah.
and for the Royals as well, where their stadium's going to end up. Uh, but like we said here at the Power Hour before, if you don't move it downtown, why do you move it at all? Uh, does the reason you want the stadium downtown is because you want it to be centrally located and you want the downtown atmosphere. But if you just move to Overland Park, which is where the Royals seems like maybe they're going to move it, it just kind of defeats the purpose of moving to me.
Just moving it to a different suburb, and then what? When another 20 years, we're gonna move it to another
Yeah,
suburb.
yeah,
What? I mean, why? Like,
yeah. Move it down.
keep
If
it
you're gonna move it,
downtown.
move it
Get the downtown
downtown
headline.
or to
Get the
North Kansas City, where you
yeah,
can at least see downtown from the stadium.
exactly.
Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't make sense. The Chiefs, it doesn't quite matter as much where it's going to be because the Arrowhead's not going to be used as much uh, as the new Royal Stadium because there's only 10 or so dates that it's going to get used as a football stadium, and you have some concerts and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
you just you need a you need a bigger parking lot for the Chiefs because there's
And you're
terrible.
not going to find a bigger parking lot than where they already
Yeah,
have.
I know it's unless you go out to because you go out to the Legends, there's some big parking lot space out there, but you have enough
Yeah.
big enough space where they are right now, and I would keep it. I've heard also the Chiefs might want to are thinking of building a dome, which I don't know, may lead to Super Bowl hosting, but like it would get like one Super Bowl every 20 years, which I think is not
At best,
at best. Yeah.
because I think the league is in general reluctant to put it in a cold weather
Cold weather city.
town.
They've had like one in Minneapolis, they've had one in New York. Um,
But they gravitate towards
yeah.
the big cities and the southern cities
Yeah, they
primarily.
gravitate towards Miami, New Orleans, um,
Las Vegas
Vegas
recently,
now,
LA.
LA. Yeah, those are the ones that get it the most. But
But I mean,
those,
those are also the towns that can support huge numbers of people coming into towns for that
mhm,
purpose. They're
mhm.
not trying to just like placate the local fans. They have to be able to accommodate, yeah, a huge influx of people coming in, not just for the to go to the game, but to like be part of it, the media circus that surrounds it, and everything else that was part of that week that builds up to it. The city has to be able to have enough hotel rooms and everything to support a large number of people coming in for that. And those kind of towns do, like, especially the ones that have like hosted Olympics and stuff like that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like LA. Yeah.
Got it. Well, we will, I guess, come back next week and talk more about the Royals, more about the Chiefs, perhaps, if they do anything newsworthy or noteworthy between now and then. But we also have more to discuss with regard to the NBA and NHL Finals, which begin Wednesday of this week. So yesterday, if you're listening on our debut day for the NHL, and tonight, if you're listening on our debut day for the NBA Finals, Thursday, June the 5th, and Wednesday, June 4th for the NHL. So those to look forward to. We have hopefully those series go are competitive. Although I bet that if I were making a bet, I would bet on the under 5.5 games with the Oklahoma City win. So you- my bet would want a short series, but my heart would want a longer, more dramatic 6 or 7 game series at least.
Yeah.
So, you have anything else to add, Dr. Scaff, before we sign off today?
Go Canada, right? For the
Yes, go
NHL.
Canada for the Stanley Cup. Go Edmonton. Um, boo Miami. Uh,
specifically any warm weather. It didn't matter which warm weather city it was. You were going to boo that city, right?
Yes. Miami, I think, is the warmest of the warm weather though, so it gets even more. And they already won last year, so they get more of mine. You can't have a back to they have a back-to-back Lightning. Did they win back-to-back recently?
I think so.
You can have two back-to-back Florida champions, and
No, that's too much.
that's too much.
With a
So
Vegas in the middle, like that's the
yeah,
no.
basically,
Come on,
yeah, yeah. Come on,
no,
come on. All right. Well,
now
um,
analysis like that. That's why
that's why
people
people
tune
keep
in.
tuning in to the Warren Track Power Hour for hard-hitting, hair-splitting analysis. I haven't used that tagline lately, but it's no less true, even though I haven't used it lately. We will be back more next. We will be back. We'll be back next week with more hard-hitting, hair-splitting analysis here at the Warren Track Power Hour. Uh, as always, I'm Dr. Michael Werman. He is Dr. Andrew Scaff. We are the One Trick Power Hour. Please like and or subscribe to our YouTube channel and or our podcast, which is available on many different podcast delivery platforms, including the one that you most likely use day to day. Um, so we appreciate your listenership, your viewership. Like I said, we'll be back next week with more NBA, NHL news, with more other news around this world of sports, plus also deep dives into small town Iowa and Hy-Vee locations nationwide or something similar next week. You can count on the patented One Trip Power Hour tangent.
Oh, absolutely.
So
That's a
we'll be back
guarantee.
next week and with an all new episode with all new excitement, fun, and frivolity. And from us here at the One Trip Power Hour, we wish you a good day.